class. Okay, this lesson I am going over common mistakes in our narrative. I should use the microphone because I'm so loud. Okay. Common mistakes that I'm seeing across the board. I don't know where the other microphone went. Here it is. Across the board in all my classes, okay? Most of you in this class will have these mistakes. So I am telling you now so that when you get ready to do your final draft, you can fix it. So pay attention, pay close attention, because these mistakes, if they're still in your narrative, ooh, you're going to have a reckoning with me, okay? So here we go. These are the most common mistakes I've seen so far. First is comma mistakes, and specifically two kinds of, there's all kinds of common mistakes going on. But I'm only going to take up these two today. Proper names. You guys do not know how to capitalize, even though you learned that in kindergarten. You still can't do it. Subject and object. I'll explain that when we get there. And then these guys are specifically for the narrative. So let's start up here with commas, intro, and fanboys. What is an intro in a sentence? What is an introduction phrase is what it's called. Samuel.
It is generally some sort of transition, but sometimes it can be just like starting a sentence if it's short.
Okay, so Samuel says it's a transition. Perfect. That's a really good explanation. I never even thought to give it that way. If there's an intro phrase, it's transitioning. Okay? It's transitioning from the last sentence to the next sentence. So sometimes an intro phrase looks like a prepositional phrase. Does anyone know what that is? Okay?
Is that where it says like sentences like
Ready for it? I'm going to sing. Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. Over the river, through the woods, to grandmother's house. Over, through, to are all prepositions. Prepositions are location words. Okay? They tell you where things are.
over, through, up, down?
Okay? Over the river, through the woods, to grandmother's. You just want me to sing again. Okay. So if you have a little phrase at the beginning and a sentence can be a sentence without that phrase, then you need a comma between that phrase and the rest of the sentence. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be a prepositional phrase. Sometimes it's like first, second, third, finally, however.
Maybe.
Look at the beginning of the sentence, and if it can be crossed out, and then you would still have a sentence with everything else, then you need a comma after it. Everyone understand?
No.
How do we also know this? This is how we know. Before we turn anything in to Mrs. Gold, we read it aloud. Aloud is a fancy word for out loud. If you read it out loud, you will find natural spots where you will breathe. And then when you see the spots where you'll breathe, you need to decide if you need a comma or not. Okay? You do this naturally because you've been speaking English your whole entire life. And you naturally, in conversation, like I just did, you will naturally, in conversation, like I just did, have pauses. You will naturally, in conversation, like I just did, have pauses. Where do the commas go in this sentence? I literally just put the pauses, and I extended them out a long time so you guys would know. Anyone? Let me tell this again. You will naturally, in conversation, like I just did, have pauses.
Comma after conversation.
And? Right. You will naturally, in conversation, like I just did, have pauses.
Big brain.
Okay? So when you write something, you never, ever turn it in until you read it to yourself in the mirror and watch for all of those pauses, okay? Because that will also help you with sentence structure, which a lot of you just keep writing and throwing up on the page and never ever use a period. Okay? So intro phrase, there's always a comma after it. Fanboys, we talked about this rule already. Who remembers? Everyone say with me what the fanboys are. For, and, nor,
but,
Or,
or,
yet.
Yet.
So.
So, if you have a complete sentence,
Yet.
and you have a complete sentence, and you have fanboys right here, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, whoever they are, One Direction, get it, they're fanboys. Okay, whatever. If you have them here, then you need a big old comma right there. How do we know if this is a sentence and this is a sentence? Because I used to work with a lady, I love her. Oh man, this better not go on YouTube. She had a law degree, she was the director of the thing, and she could not do fanboys for the life of her. Law degree, you guys. She's super smart. She does like art history, like publishes in journals. She still couldn't do fanboys. What were you gonna say, McKay?
You can say each of them in sentence and exam.
Good. So she would always do this, like, so this would be a sentence, and then this would not be a sentence, but she would still have a comma. Okay? And it's an easy mistake to make. A sentence is a subject and a predicate. Predicate is a fancy word for verb phrases. Okay? So we're just going to call it verbs. But it's more than just a verb. It's the verb and everything that goes with it. Okay? If you have a subject and a verb, and it is a complete thought, meaning that can live by itself, it's a sentence. So if this is a complete thought with a subject and verb, and this is a complete thought with a subject and a verb, and you have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so in the middle, then you need a comma before it. Everyone understand? If this is a complete thought and a sentence, and then this one is maybe incomplete, remember we just learned about sentence types. This is a dependent and this is an independent. You don't always need a comma. Okay? Look through your papers and look for these words and then try to decide if you need a comma with it or not. Yeah?
So the comma is always going to be in front of fanboys?
Always. Good question. Okay. Proper names, guys. I had a guy this morning. We just looked at his paper. We're not going to say it on the camera. But he was talking about Mario, and then he was talking about Clear Creek.
Oh, Clear Creek.
Okay, he was talking about playing the video game Mario.
Which one?
But he didn't capitalize it. What? Mario is special, and Mario wants his name capitalized, people. In fact, anyone that has a name wants their name to be special.
His dog.
Clear Creek? Is that a camp, or is that a special camp? It's a special camp. Why? It has a name.
Most camps have
If it has a name, capitalize it, please!
Why?
Now, your next question is going to be, Dad, Mom, how do we know when to capitalize or not? Okay, my name is Alice. Oh, I'm not Dad. My name is Alice. My husband's name is LG. LeGrand. That's another lesson.
LeBron James.
Okay, if my kids wrote a story about my mom and dad are crazy. Could you say, my Alice and my LG are crazy? No, so then that's not a name. But if you say Mom and Dad are crazy, can you say Alice and LeGrand are crazy? Yes. So in your sentence, if you can say Mom or Dad and then you could actually put their name in there and it would make sense, then you need to capitalize Mom or Dad.
So, same thing with grandpa and grandma, right?
Yes. Anybody. If you happen to call your brother bro, if you can say bro or you can say Atticus, whatever his name is, then yes, it needs to be capitalized if you're using it as a name. Everyone understand? Names are special. Go through your narratives and fix it. Because remember, 5 of your narrative points are for capitalization. Also, 5 of your narrative points are for grammar, which is where I'm looking for the commas. All right. Oh, this is a whole other story. We're going to go down here first and then come back to this because it's a little bit long. Okay. I know a lot of you belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I'm not going to bring up in school because, you know, this is not a place to talk about religion. However, a lot of you have had the experience of going to church, whether it be that church or another church, and the people get to get up and speak. And then there's that one lady that gets up like every single month and tells about all this stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, can I go home, please? This lady never shuts up. Probably how you feel in this class sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
Never shuts up. And then she's just saying stupid stuff that doesn't make any sense. And you're just like, I don't care that your dog got his toenails cut. Right? Right. Okay. We had a prompt for writing about when you traveled and you learned something. Well, I brought stories already, and they are killing me, you guys. I don't care about your vacation. Even if you went to Morocco, I don't care. I don't even care if my kids went there. What I care about is, did you learn a lesson and did you have a theme from that trip? We've already talked about this, but most of you have not done it right. Okay? It's not a travelogue. All right? It's a story that teaches a lesson or a theme. If your story doesn't have a lesson or a theme, I do not want to read it. You're like the lady at church that won't shut up. And trust me, I got a grade 120 of these papers, and they're all about all these different places, and they're really kill me, right? It's not about the travels. Remember the story that we read that was Death by Host Family? What was that story about? Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. What was the story about? Let me give you a hint. It's in the title, Death by Host Family.
I was hoping he was gonna die by his family.
Right? His host family's crazy. They're all on the moped and with the things and the and that's a hilarious story. And we're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die by host family. Where did that guy go in the story?
A place.
We think South America, but we don't even know because it's not about the travel. It's about the lesson and the death by the host family. So if your story is travel, you better go back and make sure that you have an actual story in there. Like this guy who wrote about Clear Creek. I don't care what you did on day 1, hour 5 of your 6th grade camp. But man, you saw a baby bear and you didn't die? That's a cool story. How did you not die? So that if I see a baby bear, I won't die too.
It's like as if saying, like, you're on this trip, so I went to Morocco, and then at Morocco, I had some ice cream.
Exactly. Stop right now, please.
I nearly died, but then I went to the hotel, and then I had
Exactly.
over and
Exactly. And trust me, I've read a lot of those. So you'll be getting the feedback, but just know that's coming. I'm giving you, this is like your warning of what's coming, okay? Word count. I know. I literally wrote a story last night, 2,000 words. It took me 10 extra minutes. Actually, I didn't even read it past page 500, word 500. Guys, really, really, really believe me when I tell you that you can do a good job between 500 and 800 words. It doesn't take you more than that. But here's the deal. If you go over one word of 1,400, I will die. Literally, I will shrink and die. That's my talk.
That seems.
But if you want an A, you probably really need to be here. Seriously.
So, I rewrote my story. It has around, like 890.
Yep, get 9 more words out.
Is that a terrible amount? Because some words I actually need to, like, set up
See?
terms.
You decide. You're the keeper of your own fate. Okay, guys, first sentence hook. Remember in modules, I have the right module at the bottom of our modules, right?
Yes.
Okay, in there's something called the hook. Okay? Here's the deal. If I read your first sentence and I'm like, I'm taking 5 points off like that. Do not make your first sentence like, I was walking down the street one day. Literally, I can't even tell you when you were like that. Your first sentence needs to be a punch in my face. Making something I've never heard before, ever. So my grandpa died. If you don't know how to do that, go to this lesson. It will teach you. Not my grandpa died. All my grandpas are dead. Okay, 5 sentences, guys. You need to have all 5 of the sentences. So what? You're not eating anything in your story? Guess what? That lady's face tastes like lemon in my mouth.
Oh,
No,
You can
don't
use
do
the
that.
sense. So I'm trying to teach you. So you're not eating anything. You're like, how do I get the taste in here? Use it as a metaphor, guys. Okay. Lastly.
You said like in there, so it's technically a simile.
Okay.
Cement tastes like a rock.
Subject and object. This video is getting way too long. Okay.
Magnet thingy bigger.
Guys, psychologists, and I can't remember what this is called, say that the way we learn things is we put little folders in our brains. Like we literally have to organize the information and it goes in a spot. So somewhere in your brain, you have like a hard drive, and in that hard drive, there is something called grammar, or maybe yours is called I don't care. Okay? But there is a hard drive, there is a part of your hard drive in your brain that is all about the stuff that you've learned about English and writing. And trust me, there are hundreds, if not thousands of things in there you have to remember to be a good writer. That's why it's difficult. Today, I need you to put this folder in your brain and never forget it. It's called the subject and object folder, and it's called me, my dog, and I. Me, my banana, and I, or me, whatever you want to be and I. Okay, subject and objects, guys. The subject of a sentence is what does the verb. The object receives the verb. And guess what? Typically, like 99.9% of the time, subjects first and objects last. Okay? So, here's our subjects. I'm a subject. I should say Mrs. Gold. I am going to make my husband a subject.
Your job.
I'm going to make Samuel and Mrs. Gold a subject. And I am going to make the class a subject. Okay. Now, if I want to replace these with a pronoun, and I'm writing about Mrs. Gold, and it's me, what would the pronoun be?
I.
I. Write about my husband, what's the pronoun?
He.
He. You don't know he's a man. He could be a she. Or
He could
he's
be
a man.
a she.
Okay.
Okay.
Samuel and Mrs. Gold, what's that?
They.
Mine's a him.
We.
They.
I am a him.
And the class?
They.
They.
Him, he.
Okay? Now, so if we have a sentence of these people are I don't want to say kissing because Samuel's in there, are hitting. Okay. Mrs. Gold, I am hitting. Who am I hitting?
Also,
Samuel.
okay, hey, whoa. I did not
Mrs.
agree
Gold
with this.
is hitting Samuel. Now I want to change Samuel out for the pronoun. What is it?
Hitting the bass drum, baby.
Him. Or what if I'm hitting his house, right?
Hey, whoa. What am I house
Some
every
house
day?
is her. Okay. LG, she, he. LeGrand, or he, is hitting Samuel also.
Whoa, okay.
For
Hey,
me.
Why is everyone
What is he saying? No. I am hitting LG.
I am calling the police.
What would I call that?
He's calling the police.
Oh, wait a minute. This goes here. Sorry, this is him here. Okay. What if somebody hit?
Samuel hit Miss
What is
Gold.
my pronoun?
Mrs. Gold.
I.
Me. Right? Me.
Me.
And this is her, or this is it.
And
What
then
about
they, them.
What if Deacon
Themselves.
hits Samuel and me? He
Double
hit
kill.
Why can't I hit Deacon?
us. He hit us. And then what if he hits the whole class? He hit
Mega
them.
kill.
Can I hit the whole
Okay.
class?
No.
Guys, I promise you, most of your papers have these mistakes in here, but this is the major mistake you have. When you have two of these together, and we're just going to call it Mrs. Gold and LG, that's my husband, okay, and you want to use pronouns, I and him,
No, him and I.
We.
him and I,
Gemini.
he and I,
We.
Him and me.
him and I,
Him and I.
him and I, we're hitting, him and I, is that what it is?
Yeah.
That sounds like a word, him and I. Where'd you go?
Sounds like Gemini.
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 Gemini Smith.
Is it him and I?
Is it?
No, because we're the object. So what is it?
Me and him.
We're object.
He
And
and I.
I'm a household object.
He and
I'm
I.
the lamp.
Get it? Get it? Get it?
Him and I.
Okay. Here's the deal. If you have I in the subject place, it's never, and you have two, it's never first, ever.
What if it is?
It's not. Your friends come first if they're the subject.
I thought that food came first.
Okay, food comes first if you're the subject. The food and I. Okay?
Hold on.
Do not write I and somebody else at the beginning of a sentence. The I has to come last. Every one of you has that mistake in your paper, I promise. Okay. Also, the way you test this is, again, with the names. The special names, the ones that are capitalized, put their names in there and see if it works. If it works by itself, then it's right. If it doesn't work by itself, it's not right. So if you wrote me and LG are hitting Samuel.
Oh, whoa.
Me hitting Samuel, does that work?
Yeah.
No. I am hitting Samuel.
Yes.
Me am hitting Samuel. Is that a sentence? No. I am hitting Samuel. Sentence. See, it works.
Me is smacky smacky.
LG is hitting Samuel.
Yes.
Why?
Right? Okay.
Wait, but
You
what-
So,
getting beat
if
up.
everyone should be looking at their papers and looking for the words and making sure you got this right. And if you don't know, send me an email and I'll tell you. All right?
Samuel and
Hey, that's your lesson. Those are words of wisdom from Mrs. Gold today. Use it wisely.
Was that it?
That's it.
Oh, wow.